All right, can you share with us how recruiting has changed within your company, within your organization in the last month with the COVID crisis, social distancing, safer at home? Amanda.
Great. So, yeah, so it has changed, but not a ton. So we were fortunate enough to switch over some of our interviewing process to phone and then what we would consider a group session prior to everything going on. And that was new to us this year. And every year we kind of change up our interviewing process to make sure we're doing what's best for the candidate and then what's best for that generation coming in. So we already had made a change. So the one thing we had to change in our interview process was going to a group interview session. So using a conference tool like this, we use GoToMeeting. We also have Zoom. So we have a lot of tools as it relates to this. So it wasn't necessarily a hard transition. I think the hardest part was making sure we were communicating best with our candidates. So what I would say on that end is if your employer has set you up for an interview and maybe they're missing a detail, give them a little bit of grace and just ask the question because we don't know what we're missing because we haven't been in this situation before. So I try to include everything I can about whether the webcam will be on and what you should wear, even though we're in this situation, right? But if they don't tell you those things, just ask. I think that's really important. Um, the other thing that I would say has changed is just the amount of emails that are coming through, the amount of volume that comes through in terms of free tools, free resources, webinars, the fun stuff too, the happy hours and the new apps that are around, right? And so we're all kind of being inundated with a lot of information. So make sure you're taking the time to look at that information and read it through thoroughly because it's the main form of communication. You're not going to once you're there, you're not going to stop in the hallway or be able to jump in someone's office or what that might look like. So clear, clean communication is probably one of the biggest things that we're even still working through as a team. So we're not double doing work or resending things we don't have to resend. Just keep open communication, ask questions, read those emails. I know personally we're working from home, so I've opened up my cell phone. So texting is a lot more available now than maybe it was prior to working from home. So that's changed a little bit too. And another great thing that we've been learning with kind of the virtual interview process is that on the interviewer end, I know that there's going to be noises in the background, that you might lose the connection, that, somebody might walk through the webinar, right? Remember that same thing's going to happen to us. I now have a 1.5-year-old coworker and an 11-year-old coworker. And so it's not perfect over here either. So just giving each other that back and forth and know that you're going to see a little bit more, I think, of people's culture and who they are. And that's a great thing during this time. But we know we're going to see that too. And that's okay. Don't be worried.
So as far as our interviewing at CLA, we have moved to more phone interviews, and then our second round of interviews, even the interviews I'm doing initial interviews too, we've used GoToMeeting. So you still get to see the people much like we're doing today, and besides not being able to be together, you're still able to see the person that you're interviewing. So it's actually interesting. One of our principals had done interviews on a different campus because their interviews generally happened in spring, and it was the very beginning of all of this happening. So we just moved all of our interviews. We kept that same schedule. We did everything through Handshake like we always did. The talent acquisition coordinator really just called the students 15 minutes before their slotted time, prepped them, had them on the phone while the principal then activated the GoToMeeting. And at the end of the day, I think we had interviewed 10 students. The end of the day, he felt like it was almost even better than going to campus. He said it just felt like a more personal connection. So seeing people on the screen, and maybe the students were, comfortable of their own home and whatnot, but he felt like it was a really good experience. So I look at what we're doing now is, gosh, is this going to be something we could continue doing moving forward with all of our interviews on campus? And when you think about lots of different things and gas and mileage and sustainability and the environment and people not driving, like, wow, this could be our new norm, especially when one of our principals that does a lot of interviewing too thought it was actually pretty cool the way we did it. So he was actually able to get personal, and there was one student that just to kind of make small talk, they were talking about sports, and I believe he was Vikings fan or something. So our principal pulled out his Packer hat and put his Packer hat on, like subliminally during the interview. So I think it's everyone's in it together is the beauty of all of this. It's not just one company or one state. We're all in this together, and we're all trying to help each other get to the end of the rainbow here and see how this is all going to shake out. But so we've been definitely using more technology, and who knows going forward what our new best practices might be. So again, to Amanda's point, do have grace and patience, and I think that's really got all of us thinking a little bit differently about not having to be so stressed out about things, and absolutely still be prepared. It's still your interview. Come dressed appropriately for it and things. Take your pajamas off and put some maybe business casual clothes on. But just know that we're all trying to stay connected yet too and keep going with our process to hire interns and associates for 2021. So keep doing what you're doing.
And I'll just quickly echo what Amanda and Jill said. We had started integrating more and more technology into our recruiting process, fortunately, this past year. So it was a pretty easy transition when we had to move to all working from home. But we utilize Microsoft Teams internally. So it's every company, as you probably heard, is a little bit different in what they use for technology, and you might not be familiar with the technology. So a tip that I would have if you a link to do a virtual interview or anything like that is to test it ahead of time, ensure your webcam and your microphone work. More often than not, you get into that interview setting and then you realize one of the two doesn't work, and then you're scrambling. And we're giving you some grace. We totally understand that that happens, but at the same time, it might frazzle you and get you off your A game when you might have felt really prepared going into it. So just take a couple minutes ahead of time to test it, and if it doesn't work, then connect with your recruiter or whoever scheduled the interview with you. But then also, I'll just take it a little bit of a different direction too. This has forced us as an employer to really look at our virtual training when we actually are hiring people. So be prepared for that as well. If you're going to be starting a job in the next couple months, there's a good chance you'll be training virtually in some capacity. So kind of get comfortable with what that's going to look like. And like we've all said, give employers some grace. We're all learning because it's new to all of us. And ultimately, we want to bring you on board to our organization. It's just going to look a little bit different than what it did before.
Thank you all.